the future of work, but we're going to focus on metaverse. And we talked about it earlier this morning. Simon Vine is at the airport. It put this panel together, and then we're going to kick it off with Gary. You couldn't be here, but there's a little video from Gary Bowles, who leads the future of work at Singularity University. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Gary Bowles. I'm the chair for the future of work with Singularity University and the author of the brand new book, The Next Rules of Work. If you're watching this, my flights didn't quite connect in Munich on the way to Athens, so I thought I'd pre-record some ideas. Now, I'll hand off the opportunity to define virtual reality, artificial reality, and extended reality to Dio, Angelina, and Simon, who are far more knowledgeable and experienced on the topic. But I did help to host a series of retreats 4 years ago, focused on the concept of an open metaverse. So I do have 4 fire starter ideas about the intersection of online worlds and work. Now, many of you will remember that in my book, The Next Rules of Work, I talk about mindset, skill set, and tool set. A lot of our talk about metaverses is about the tool set, but they can also be great tools for learning new skills and for encouraging new mindsets. So, fire starter number 1. Silicon Valley is doing one of the things it does best, which is to settle on a single label for something that really is just a huge, broad category of software and hardware. There's no single metaverse, just like there's no single group of AI software. There are lots of virtual worlds, and they're mostly not interconnected. Calling video games, digital workplaces, and so on all one metaverse is a little overplayed. So if it's confusing, not only is it not your fault, it's meant to be confusing. So lots and lots of vendors can claim to be in the metaverse. Now, despite this confusion, there are some really good applications of the combination of virtual reality headsets or augmented reality devices like your phone, and software that lets you do some interesting things. So fire starter number 2 is things like workplace training for hard or complicated or expensive work can be much easier to learn with a good training application that's in a virtual environment. You can go down into a virtual mine shaft and repair a virtual robot, or mix volatile chemicals in a virtual lab and nobody gets hurt. You can learn complex social interactions in social work, or to perform conflict resolution with people who are fighting by learning in simulated situations. And as Mark Zuckerberg would like us to do, you can collaborate with and learn from people around the world using some immersive work and education environments. So, plenty of great applications today. Firestarter number 3, the poster children for immersive metaverses are, of course, video games. So if you want to get up to speed, have your kid or somebody else's kid put a VR headset on you and show you how to play Fortnite or League of Legends, or use a screen and play Minecraft or Roblox, or use a smartphone and play Pokemon Go. That will at least get you conversant in what the experience is like. We put a VR headset on my 94-year-old mother, and to her it was transformative to go into a virtual environment as if she was in a national park, that she could walk around it. Firestarter number 4. Now, some of you may be familiar with the Gartner hype cycle. We entered into the trough of disappointment with metaverses years ago. Now we're in what I call a defibrillated hype cycle that's been kicked off again by the renaming and repositioning of just one company. There are many viable businesses and investments that are going to come out of these brave new worlds. Many of them will be in education and training. But when it comes specifically to the context of the world of work, most metaverses are going to continue to be sort of wild, wild west worlds. Relentless experimentation until the market finds more uses that can actually generate some return on investment for end users. And ideally, that will be because they've enabled people to solve problems individually and together in ways they could never have done before in the real world. So, strap on your seatbelts. It's going to be a virtual, bumpy ride.
Okay, so Simon Vine, if you could take over.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you for the invitation for my colleagues and me to this panel. The future of work is one of the most interesting areas, and we discussed many components of it. Today we're discussing this particular angle the influence of the metaverse on future work. And just to remind you, prior to the pandemic, we had about 30% of people working remotely. Now this number is close to 60, and all of them use something which soon will be called metaverse. And metaverse is a very important term for the investors because it is at least my feeling that whatever will be labeled as metaverse will get extra capitalization, some kind of kicker. What is metaverse? Metaverse is a new group of technologies which consists of at least 8 different technologies. And we're talking about something which is familiar to us as gaming. We're also talking about NVIDIA-like applications, which are actually hardware applications, networking, and many other things. And today, Nitin was talking about broadband as one of those facilitators of the whole metaverse. So it is very important that I think we understand how the concept works, because many investments will be going under the label of metaverse, and we'll have to understand which categories are actually productive and which categories are just trying to capitalize on the familiarity of the term. And with this, I'm leaving the podium to Angelina. Angelina will give us a little bit of methodology behind the whole space, the client, the market fit, and then product market fit, and then Simon will tell us how his startup addresses in the space, and hopefully you will see amazing applications which are available already. And then finally, Dia will give us a snapshot view on other things which will not be covered by previous speakers. And welcome to our first Metaverse panel.
Hello, am I up now? Yes, I'm going to share my screen with you. Can you see my slides? Okay. Hello, I'm Dr. Angelina Dayton. I'm an Aspen Institute Tech Policy Fellow, and I am the Senior Research Scientist at the Virtual World Society. I am an XR user experience designer and consultant, but I think I'm going to start using the term metaverse user experience designer and consultant. And I focus primarily on helping industry understand the large-scale deployment and mass adoption of emerging technologies. At Virtual World Society, I work with organizations, government, and industry to assess and predict the rise of the use of these emerging technologies. What I do is I gather the data so that people can make informed decisions about how to invest in what's going to happen next and reduce their risk. Jeremy Dalton is at PwC, and if any of you have been following some of the work that he's been doing, he predicts that the rise of VR, AR technologies will add $1.5 trillion by 2030 to GDP globally. I also am working with people that predict there will be 1 billion XR users, people in the metaverse, by the end of this decade. And what Jeremy says is everything is in place for these technologies to now deliver on the promise by improving the way organizations operate, make processes faster and more effective, and create incredible new experiences. I'm an anthropologist by training, and what I study is the average person and how to get mass adoption and large-scale deployment in Middle America, which is where revenue comes from. I believe that the average person will use XR technologies as seamlessly as they used Facebook. And in fact, Facebook believes that they will transition into the seamless use of XR technologies, and that's why Facebook is now called Meta. And I don't think they're wrong. You will witness in the next few years life, but different, life, but better. Change won't be dramatic. It'll be just like we transitioned to the smartphone. There'll be a day when we don't remember what it's like not to interact with volumetric immersive technologies in the metaverse. There's a saying that people have that is, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. And usually we're talking about how rural communities don't have broadband. But from my research, what I found is what we're really talking about is the uneven distribution of XR technologies between us and China. China is making informed decisions about how to coordinate vertically and horizontally across all their industries in order to make the most of immersive technologies and to lead the way, the conversation, and the technology, both hardware and software, in what's going to become the metaverse. They don't think this is a risk. They don't think they're investing in anything risky. What they already realize is that the only risk is not getting involved. So I'm here to provide any data, information, answer any questions about how that large-scale deployment and mass adoption is going to occur, and how to best make informed decisions about investments based on what we know happens when emerging tech evolves. My question to you is, what would you do differently if you knew the internet was going to happen 10 years before it did? Because those of us in the room right now that understand what the metaverse is and how it's already happening have that information and have already been through a technological revolution. So we're watching for the patterns and we're giving information to people about predicting what's going to happen next. So if you'd like more information, you can contact me through Virtual World Society, but I'm going to pass it off to Simon now, who's going to speak to you about the future that's already here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you, and I'll tell you about the metaverse through startups as we found it. So my name is Simon, and I'm co-founder and CCO at Collective Web, and we created a metaverse for enterprise. I just want to start it from where it comes from. A lot of people telling about the metaverse, but little of them knows what it really is. The term metaverse is used to describe the vision whereby the internet will evolve into a virtual world. The idea was first conceptualized in deep 1992 by the American novelist Neil Stephenson in his science fiction classic Snow Crash. It foresees the internet as the 3D virtual living space where individuals dip in and out, interacting with one another like in real life. So we create our metaverse for enterprises with video avatars for sales and communication. Internet will be changed in the next 10 years. The old web was static and consisted of text, pictures, and buttons. Despite today's high-quality images and videos, the web is still a two-dimensional, lonely place. And we believe that new web is a mix of digital and offline, and we are calling it phygital, with a vision of metaverse through an internet-enabled virtual world where people have avatars and interact with digital assets and even corporeal objects with augmented reality. With our cloud-based streaming solution, we've merged the best parts of three major technologies. Gaming, we created our platform on the same one as Warcraft or Fortnite game. Cloud-based and web, it means that you don't need to download any apps, and you can enter the metaverse via browser on any device. And spatial communication, it means that we create our own Zoom, and we have video and audio. And if we're comparing us with Zoom or Google Meet, here we have just one audio channel, and on our platform you have multi-channel audio. So we can be at one space, and one group of people can be one corner, other in another corner, and we will not hear each other, and we will reach each other, or we will hear it. So it's like in real life. And we started doing projects and pilots from the last year. here one of the use cases of the platform. We created for the top retailer in Europe a trade expo. Before the pandemic, they made it in offline, but COVID forced them to move all communication to online. And we created them at Expo, where each brand like Samsung, LG, Microsoft, they had their new product releases, and top sales managers were educated for 2 weeks in interactive gaming mode. So here we are using all gaming opportunities for business purposes. Users, they are moving with their avatars. On the left corner, you see points, so client knows who is active, who is passive. On the map, they can migrate through the stands. Here you can see quizzes and tests. So it's all gaming options here, you can see it. Another use case is a virtual collaboration. And this is a standard template of the Office for the Snapchat. I'm sorry for jumping. It's on our platform. It's everything smoothly. Zoom is cutting slides and shots. So this is our standard templates of virtual offices. So people can collaborate and communicate. And if we compare once again with Zoom, for example, I'm speaking and all of you are listening to me. And on our platform, you can go to the meeting rooms, so you can, and no one will hear you. So everything like in a real office. This is another use case of the platform. We are calling it showrooms for the top brands. So what's the difference with today's web? We have an option for sales managers to communicate with the customers, and you can do that right now in today's web. This is another use case for e-commerce for one of the top brands in tennis. So here just standard SKUs products because of the NDA, but here you can see that you can move like in a real store. And you can also make a purchase here. So you can see it's the same template, but for another another client. It's US football team, and the value for them is that they can communicate with their customers. They can show their content here. So on the screen, they can download any videos. On the stores, customers can buy their merchandising. And in today's real world, when COVID is going, is a big value for them. And here, a custom
Simon,
project.
let's get closer to the end.
Closer to what? Sorry.
Let's finish it soon.
Sure. Yeah, I have just the last template. So we can recreate here anything we want, and imagination is just our restrictions. But we are going in a standard templates, and we are offering to our clients a self-service where they can do everything like in Constructor. And we believe that the future web will be 3D and interactive with the communication side. Thank you.
Dio, please go ahead.
All right, hi everybody. Sharing here my screen. All right, quickly, so because we don't have much time, this is who I am. And one point that I wanted to mention, just like elaborating a little bit on what Gary mentioned. So the metaverse is not really well defined right now. Every big company that you hear, that you see, they're coming from a different point of view from what they do. for example, this is Microsoft, where I was there, we deliver some products, some applications, and they're still, of course, they have done more releases, is from the point of view of productivity and being together doing work. Like, as you can see, and you probably saw in the videos and examples, this is one of them, everybody looking at the HoloLens and seeing together, working together in a 3D model. There's another really interesting and very successful application, which is called Guides, and it allows people working in factories to be able to work on repairing equipment without having to bring the experts and fly them from around the world. Instead, they wear the HoloLens and they have a 3D hologram that then the expert can move around and they can point, okay, you need to put the tool here, et cetera, et cetera. Facebook, as you know, they come from a social point of view mostly because that's what they're doing, right? That's their history, being a social platform so people can come together and enjoy together and play, etc. This is Unity Technologies. I used to work there, and they're the most popular, one of the most popular 3D game engines. In general, they're actually a 3D experiences creation tool. And what we were doing, we were focusing, again, because it's a creation company, it was about providing the tools and have people create together and being able to share those experiences. And then you have the crypto community today. It's also about metaverse. Metaverse is mostly, they're coming from the point of view of blockchain and specifically NFTs, being able to have, that certificate of authenticity when you create, your avatar, your items, etc. Because one thing that has been proven is that when the metaverse comes, one use case that everybody loves and is going to be successful is personalized avatars, personalized items, being able to buy furniture, etc. What NFT gives us is now that ability of, for example, buy the Gucci bag that you are going to be able to show and say, okay, this is an authentic one. And then whoever downloads, copies an identical version, because today anything digital you can copy, you can download. But those are going to be the knockoffs. And so, one more minute, so we can leave time for questions, is also, in order to be successful for the metaverse, we need to also take a step back. And I'm not a pessimist. I love, the metaverse. I've been working on this since the early 2000s. But just like Gary mentioned, metaverse has come and gone several times. In the early 2000s, there was this wave. There were a couple of frameworks you probably heard about or not, because they're not really much around. One is Second Life, and the other is Open Simulator. Both of them, they were calling themselves metaverses. They were platforms you were able to create and buy land. They have the in-world currency. They have people, selling and buying furniture. You can buy your own house, etc. It was so popular in Second Life that Reuters created an office within Second Life, and they had a full-time reporter just simply covering events and news within Second Life. But what happened? Why didn't they stick? And so, I'll leave that perhaps for the discussion. It's a teaser there, something to think about. And this is just me. I'm a consultant in XR. That's all my contact information. Feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Angelina, Dio, and Simon, thank you very much. The quick summary is we are living at the time when we will have many new universes, virtual universes appearing. They grow very fast. When they become popular, we will have many more Facebooks and many more other types of companies which will appear in the next 3-4 years. And that's why it is definitely worth watching the space. And thank you very much, and thank you to our dear audience. And Mark.
Well, Simon, you're not getting off that easy. So, although the great thing about Simon is he was in Portugal, and in, 48 hours, he put this panel together. Imagine if he had a little more time and he was in New York. So I think this is a great and you spoke about it earlier today, so let's go, a lot of these subjects will be catalyzed into deeper dives. So before we go into tech, which is sort of a cousin area, and bring up that panel, any questions to the presenters? I'd like to know how to move myself around on the screen. That's one of my questions, but any questions about the fundamentals? One I had was, I've seen these, it's looking better, it's more compelling. I don't know why Second Life didn't take off, but I'd like to sort of get a sense of the numbers and where the investment opportunities are. So if maybe the panel could speak to that as a kickoff question. I guess I asked 3 questions in one, but any of those, any of the above. The numbers, why didn't Second Life take off? Whatever you want to talk about.
Did you want to answer why you think Second Life didn't take off?
Sure. In my opinion, there were several factors. One was the headsets, the lack of real immersion. At the end of the day, it was just like a game, a 3D game where just you walk around in your avatar with your mouse and keyboard. So you had to be on a PC to experience. So that part of the experience and the platform. The other factor is perhaps even the use cases. It came like, even though so many things happened there, there were conferences, there were, collaboration. I taught a class in Second Life. I attended mental health support groups. But it sort of stagnated in the sense that it didn't evolve more. It just became a little bit of more of the same. In Second Life particularly, it was not interoperable. They had their own currency, but that was it. They had a programming language where you can create, items and all, but it was very like a walled garden. So that's why it didn't become the real internet, right? Of worlds of worlds. Open Simulator is actually that. It allows you to have your own computer, install Open Simulator, and immediately connect. So you have your own metaverse and all. But as a open source product or framework, didn't have the money and finances and all.
And I would add, if I may,
Go for
briefly,
it.
That what we see with immersive technologies is the ability to do things like telemedicine, to train in a technology that later on we can use for therapeutics. Second Life didn't offer that. And so when you have an immersive technology, there's more options available. Sorry. And so I think what you're going to see with immersive technologies is the ability to train more effectively and efficiently so you have a business case to invest. And then that's going to translate into real world uses, such as therapeutics or safer pipelines like they were talking about, where you can train with the HoloLens, and then you can reduce risk at the work site.
Questions? Any other questions on Meta? We got all that figured out? Well, it gets better, and I think you make a good point. It needs to be not just a game, it needs to be like functional and interoperable. So this will be another ancillary way of something we should focus on. So thank you to the panelists.
Come join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.